What's going on, guys? SeeJay here. Today's video, I wanted to take a look at Lord Elrond and give a little bit of awareness to his return potential timing and what you need to be doing in order to prepare for it, because it's gonna kind of sneak up on you quickly. It's already kind of putting a little pressure on myself, and I've been kind of thinking about this. So for those out there that are kind of just not, I wanted to do sort of a public service announcement on preparing and what you need to be thinking about to get your 5 elves to 7-star to get 7-star Elrond, or if you're preparing for a 5-star version of Lord Elrond, what you need to do to prepare for that. So let's go ahead and dive into it. All right, guys. So like I said in the intro, Lord Elrond, we can go ahead and dive into some of my sheets that talk about his return and the timeline and sort of the math and logic I use behind that, and the preparations that you need to be thinking about to get yourself ready for his return. So my initial plan of attack was Narameri and Legolas, Elrohir, and then your Elodin Arwen duo to 7-star, right? Those were the 5 elves I wanted to have for Lord Elrond, because those 5 elves are elves that I want to have long term anyway, so they're worth the investment. So a couple of things that I need to be thinking about is, one, I need 2 million gold, because right now I only have 1 out of those 5 characters at 7-star. So keep in mind, you need 500,000 gold from 6 to 7-star. And if you're even lower than 6-star, you're going to need more gold. So actually, like myself, Elrond and Arwen are at 5-star, approaching 6-star. That's another 250k each, so another 500,000. So I actually need 2.5 million gold for my 7-star Lord Elrond sort of push. If you have more in the 5-star bucket, just tackle on another 250k per character. So from a gold sync perspective, start thinking about the gold you're going to need for this event, because you're going to need a 7-star 5 elves, right? So not only do you need the stars and need to be kind of preparing it from a shard perspective, but you need to have those resources ready, because when it comes around, you're going to need that gold to obviously actually have them at 7-star. So a perfect example for me would be, of course, my Narameri. A little bit hard to see behind my fat head, but Narameri is 7-star promotable. I haven't invested the 500k, so while she is ready to be 7-starred, she's not 7-starred. So that's another kind of investment to think about on your account. If we're looking at it from my point of view and where I currently stand, Arwen is about to ding 6-star, so that's great. Elodin is a little bit a ways away, probably a couple days from dinging 6-star. But if we want to flip over to my kind of cheat sheet here, what we need to discuss is the timing of Lord Elrond. Speculative, right? We don't really know when he's going to return, but based off the 2 events we've had, this is just pure speculation. So when is he returning, and what do I need to do to prepare for that? So for starters, Legolas is an easy farm. You can get Legolas from 3-star, so like no investment at all, to maxed out in 70 days. Are you screwed if you went after Legolas right now and have done no farming on Legolas? Yes, because 70 days would be 2+ months from now, which is going to put you out into sometime in April. I think that's going to be too late. So if you haven't started farming Legolas, you're probably not going to be able to farm Legolas. But if you have him at 5 or even 6-star, 6 to 7-star, assuming you can get the 10x drop rate, which isn't guaranteed every single day, of course, but in a theoretical world, you could get him in 30 days, because you get 10 per, right, per day, and you need 300 shards, 30 days. Assume there's some 5s mixed in there, probably half the time. You're probably looking at closer to like, say, 40 days realistically. But 40 days will still put you in some point of like a mid-March timeline based off the recording of this video, which is February 6th. So Legolas is a good kind of go after. He's great with fellowship, so if you're kind of working towards trying to get your Gandalf, again, he's kind of a good character to consider. And he doesn't use up your energy resources for other grinds, because he's obviously using a shop currency. So Legolas is one of my focal points. Legolas is not too far away on my account from getting to 7-star, so I'm not concerned for myself on getting Legolas to that point. But keep in mind, the timeline's about 40 probably ish days from 6 to 7-star, and if you're below 6-star, then just kind of consider how much more, you know, roughly about 7 to 8 shards on average per day, because you're going to get some 5 days, you're going to get some 10 days. So Legolas is definitely worth going after. If we look at your guild campaign farm characters, those are fantastic options. So Elrond here is a top 5 character in the game. Mary is probably a top 10 character in the game, top 3 support slash healer character in the game. So both of them are totally worth investing your resources into. They're both guild campaign farms, so they're easy to get even as a newer player. So if you're trying to get Lord Elrond for the first time, I would absolutely invest into them to 5-star. To get them from literally nothing to 7-star takes a little over a month, probably like 35 to 40 days, and that's with no refreshes. If you're just trying to get them to 6 to 7-star, you're looking at about a 2-week window, just over 2 weeks. So again, Legolas, Narameri, Elrond, all super easy, kind of guaranteed characters that you can have ready for Elrond, whether it be a 5-star event or a 7-star event, if you start going after them now. Or if you've already been investing into them, then of course you're even a little bit further ahead and ready for this. If we're looking at your hard node farm, so the characters that I would consider farming and focusing on, we're going to have 1 extra in there because of course you only need 5, and this is going to be the 3 I've mentioned plus 3 more. So you have Arwen and Elodin as probably your prime 2 picks, followed by Lomian, who's going to be someone that if you're a little bit earlier in the game and maybe you don't have access to both Arwen and Elodin, then you could probably do Legolas, Narameri, Elrond here, Arwen and or Elodin, whoever you can actually get to based off the Shadow or Light campaign on where you are. At 5, again, we're speaking from both player bases here. Your 5-star push first go around Lord Elrond's and your 7-star Lord Elrond's. So it'll be Arwen, Elodin, and Lomian. So those characters are going to require obviously good amount of resources because you're going to be looking at Arwen and Elodin at your 80 per 5x, right? And I think Lomian is a 12, not a 16 node, so he's going to be your 60. So a little bit more efficiency, I guess. But again, you're going to want Arwen and Elodin no matter what if you're trying to get a Lord Elrond. So I would certainly go after them if you have the capabilities to do so. Now, unfortunately, hard nodes are going to be one of your best bangs for your bucks in terms of like multiple characters you can grind at a given time and eventually get a lot of characters to that 6 or 7-star hump, and then kind of remove them from your sort of tackle list and then add another 5, 6, 7 characters and kind of keep cycling them through. Whereas some of these other grinds are generally like 1 character focus grinds. So like your guild campaign, I would just hammer out Elrond here or hammer out Narameri. And if you're doing like a store campaign like character or a store character like Legolas, you're just going to invest into Legolas on a daily basis. So although you can get them much quicker, you can only really focus on 1 character. Whereas in the hard node farms, you get enough resources in a day. Plus, if you're doing a 3x 50 gem refreshes, you can do upwards to 10 characters a day if you're not grinding any gear. But if you are grinding gear, maybe it's like 7 characters or 8 characters you're looking at. But again, once you get all of them done, they're all done, right? They're all 6, 7-starred. You can then move on to your next cycle of characters, your whole next team, essentially. So with that intel and with that known, just know an Arwen, Elodin, or Lomian from fresh is going to take about 6 months, just over 6 months to grind. So you're way too far out at this point to even consider it for Lord Elrond's return here this go around. But assuming they cycle him through 3 times a year, you could be pretty close, if not more than ready for his next go around, which I would assume is about the same timeline as last go around for his first cycle, which was the end of June into early July. So assuming a similar timeline, that would give you almost 5-ish months today to start farming these characters with no refreshes to 7-star from scratch. Assuming you have some of these characters, if you're trying to push 60 to 70 or 60 to 70, 6-star to 7-star, so kind of the bucket I'm in right now, and where I really was like, oh shit, is 6 to 7-star averaging around 4 shards per day is gonna take about 80 days to get your 75 to 80 days to get your character to 7-star. So that is 2.5 months. 2.5 months is gonna push us into the middle of April. So if I don't start making it a change on my personal attempt for Lord Elrond 7-star, I'm gonna miss him because I won't have Arwen and Elodin or Lomian at 7-star for his event. So now that I know that, I got to start considering I need to do refreshes, which over the last 2 days I have been. And one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video is kind of the PSA. It could come around quickly and you're going to need to be ready for it, especially if you're trying to get 7-star Elrond. And so if I'm looking at refreshing even just once a day, I'll double my output from 4-ish shards per day on a character to 8, which will then cut it in half from about 75 to 80 days to like 35 to 40 days. That'll be tight. 40 days is going to put me into like mid-March. I think that's okay. But if I wanted to really guarantee that I get him, I could do 2x refresh. Now we're starting to really buckle into gems and potentially needing to pay for gems, or stop refreshing your daily refreshes in order to just go all in on Arwen and Elodin. So that's not really a big suggestion, because your 1x refresh is 25 gems. So 25 and 25 is 50. You can probably do that without it being too much of a cost sink for you in any way. Between, we don't have a calendar event to give you some free gems, but I would say 1 refresh a day is probably suffice, especially if you're watching this at the beginning, at the time of recording, so the beginning of February, and you want to prepare for this event, and you're at or close to 6-star, you probably can get away with it. And as you get closer to the event, maybe you start double dipping into 2x if you're just a little bit too far out from the timing working out. But if you did want a 2x refresh, you can really cut it down to like 3 to 4 weeks. So 3 to 4 weeks from today would really get this characters, or both these characters, done by the end of February. So that'll really put you ahead, but it might be just a little bit too much ahead and a little bit too much of a resource sink, because now you're talking 150 gems a day into Arwen and Elodin for 2x refreshes on both characters. So with that being known, kind of knowing the timeline, we can look at Lord Elrond, and this is sort of a tracker I have on my file. You can see he ran 626 to 7.3, right? So 1 week run, and then it ran again 11.1 to 11.8. So when we're looking at the timeline from when it ended to when it ended, so 626 to 11.8, it was 128 days between events. We only have historical data to work with on just Elrond's legendary, because the only other legendary we have in the game is Thorin, and we never had a second Thorin run. So with Elrond's run at 128 day cycle, assuming it's somewhere around that same threshold, 120 to 130 days, that is going to push us right out to March 15th using exactly 128 days. So the exact window between the first event to the second event would be the same second event to third event, right? So that would put us at mid-March. Now, I could see it being an event that runs 3 times a year. So with his event, it would be somewhere at the end of June to early July, end of October into early November, and then again would be sometime in March, right? So that would be like beginning to middle of March. I think beginning to middle of March is probably realistic. So anywhere over the next 30 to 45 days, we could probably see Elrond return. Then if we're not really talking Elrond anymore, but Thorin was also released in December, about a month after. So we could assume somewhere around a month after Elrond's event ends, we would see the return of Thorin. That would put you in, using again kind of the math here is saying 424. I could probably see that being closer to like middle of April, like 410, 415 range. So keep that in mind if you're preparing goblins. Thorin's probably coming back here in the next 2.5 months. And then that kind of cycles very nicely into a third legendary to be released following Thorin in May, which would tie right into their 1-year anniversary. So I could see that being kind of how the cycle works to get the third legendary added into the game, which would be on the 1-year anniversary. Now we need a lot more than just a legendary added to the game on their 1-year mark, but I could see them adding a legendary on the 1-year mark, and that would be in May. So this is my speculation. Again, we don't have a lot of raw data to work with, years of history on how often events kind of come around. We've only had 2 added to the game. We've only had 1 return. So it's not guaranteed we're going to see a legendary comeback every 4 months. It could be just this one-off Elrond event came back in a 4-month window. Maybe in future states it's every 6 months. We don't know. But I would tend to believe that the earliest we would see him is sometime in early March. And now it's February 6th. So you have a month of this video to start really thinking about what do you need from a resource side to get a 5-star or get a 7-star Elrond. You get a 6-star Elrond too, but I mean, you really kind of want to push 5 or 7, like get them for that initial unlock or get them at maxed. So wanted to make the video. I think it's good knowledge to have. I know a lot of people want, obviously, your Rivendell elves, and you want them either on your account or maxed out. And I didn't realize how far I was personally on my account from being able to get myself a 7-star Elrond. I thought I was kind of just cruising along, no real risk. I totally won't get him without refreshes. So I've already been refreshing. Like I'm already going to be close as it is with 1 refresh, but I'm probably going to take the approach of 1 refresh per day until we get the announcement. And then when we get the announcement, we usually get about a week to 10 days before he actually is live. Then you get a week to actually do the event. So between both him being announced and then going live, you got about 2.5 weeks to kind of get some additional farming time in, and in that window I'll start to really math it out and say, okay, like I need to do a 2x on one of these two characters potentially to get them. So anyways, wanted to make a video on this. I think it's worth kind of calling it out. I do expect to see him in March, and I wanted to make sure you guys were prepared. So don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next one. Bye.